Classroom consequences. Objective: teachers will be able to create a series of logical consequences to use when rules are broken. Consequences, definition, and examples. According to the dictionary, a consequence is a result or effect of an action or condition. In a classroom, a consequence is issued after a rule has been broken or a student has misbehaved. Despite all your proactive strategies to prevent misbehavior, students will break the rules. They will forget, become unsure, and test limits. Be ready to follow up with logical consequences. Consequence versus punishment. Keep in mind that there is a difference between a consequence and a punishment. The goal for giving consequences is to teach a lesson that leads to positive choices. It encourages self-examination, accepting responsibility for one's actions, the ability to learn from mistakes, and the development of an inner voice or self-control. Consequences give the child the message that he is capable of taking responsibility for problems and can handle them. The definition of punishment is to cause to suffer. The goal is to inflict hurt, pain, and get even. Punishment causes resentment and rarely teaches a child what you want him to learn. It is characterized by criticism, sarcasm, disapproval, and domination. Punishment teaches that force, intimidation, and revenge are okay. It also teaches a child not to think for himself. This listen to the voice outside yourself mentality can lead to a susceptibility to negative peer groups, such as cults and gangs. Punishment is damaging to a child's self-esteem and does not facilitate secure attachment. Corporal punishment, hitting and paddling, hurts children physically and emotionally. Verbal punishment and emotional punishment, like yelling, threatening, criticizing, ridiculing, withdrawing love and attention, is particularly hurtful to children with a traumatic background. Using consequences is a powerful way of responding to children's misbehavior and helps them to take responsibility for their actions. Consequences help children look more closely at their behaviors and consider the results of their choices. Make sure consequences are relevant to the situation and reasonable in scale. Here are some tips for creating consequences. 1. Be clear and specific. 2. Have a range of alternatives. 3. Don't make consequences as punishment. 4. Relate consequences to the rule. 5. Make consequences natural, logical, and progressive. And 6. Follow through and be consistent. Remember, review the consequences with students. Post them in plain sight as a reminder to students. Don't be afraid to dole out consequences and avoid saving students when they break a rule or misbehave. To avoid rescuing a student and missing an educational opportunity, we need to let them feel the pain of consequences. Since the consequences in grade school are extremely small compared to the larger consequences of what the real world has to offer, we need to feel free to pass out consequences generously. By allowing the students to taste the consequences, you are giving them a key part of their education. Here are a few general consequences to use in the classroom. You break it, you fix it can be used to mend emotional messes as well as physical messes. A child can rebuild a block tower after accidentally knocking it over. A student can repair hurt feelings with an apology of action. An apology of action may be doing something to soothe the injury, such as drawing a picture or playing a game. Temporary loss of privilege is a simple way to help a student remember to use that privilege, art materials, recess, or group time responsibly. Losing a privilege for a class period or a day can help a child pause to remember or relearn a rule. Finally, time out or take a break is a strategy to help students learn self-control. A student who is disrupting the work of the group is asked to leave for a few minutes. Give the student a chance to regain composure and rejoin the group on his or her own. This is just a sample list of consequences to use when students misbehave or break one of the rules. Remember, consequences reset each day. The first time the rule is broken, you may issue a verbal warning. The second time the child breaks the rule, you may put their name on the board, have a private meeting with the student, or the student may experience temporary loss of privileges, points, or activity. The third time the rule is broken, you may put a check by their name or send them to time out. The fourth time the student breaks the rule, you may call the parent or complete an action plan. The fifth time the student breaks the rule, you may send them to the office. If it is a severe disruption or violation, you may immediately send them to the office. This includes disrupting learning or fighting. This is a sample list of logical consequences to use in various situations that may not be related to your list of rules, but warrant a consequence regardless. I'll just read a few. Abuse it or lose it. A consequence may be temporary loss of privileges, items, equipment, or activities. Disrespectful behavior. A consequence may be separation from group, time out, and write an apology letter. Messing around in the line. They may be sent to the back of the line and try again. Lesson review. A consequence is issued after a rule has been broken or a student has misbehaved. Consequences should be logical and fit the situation. Review the consequences with students. Post them in plain sight as a reminder to students. And finally, follow through and be consistent. We have reached the end of the lesson. Here is the activity. Generate a list of at least 5 logical consequences based on your class rules. Complete the activity in the space provided in your workbook.